Now it's time for tip-episodes with quick tips you should know. Techniques you can implement into your workflow right here on A Tale, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today. So for today, I'm going to talk fast because it's a little bit of a long episode. This is part 3 of the ADHA saga, and let me tell you why I wanted to do this very specific episode. In that original email, the one that came from the communications director from the ADHA, they sent it to my company about that first episode I did where I'm like, hey, I don't want to be a member anymore. They had mentioned that they wanted free press coverage from the RDH magazine. When they said it, it was kind of implied. They didn't actually say it, but it was, hey, we want to do this thing to help offset the remarks that Andrew said, and hopefully we can get more members or whatever the thing is. And in this free press coverage they were begging for, they wanted to highlight the benefits of being a member of the ADHA. Great. I also want that too, because I think for a lot of us, the benefits are very hard to see. Then on January 30th, in one of the very prominent dental hygiene forums on Facebook, a hygienist posted this, quote, I hear the preaching about ADHA. I get it, given the current state of affairs and DAs. How about this? Someone from the ADHA lay out a specific marketing plan and budget for a major public education campaign and tell us what you need, how many members needed, etc. Tell us where the dollars will go specifically to go to save the profession. And then you might get some people to step up. So obviously the more forceful words on that one were the all caps words. So she's all fired up about this thing. She's like, hey, just tell us what you need. We're going to try and step up. Now, while it's not exactly said this way in all of the posts on every forum, but if you go to most forums and you just read about what the ADHA is doing for us or whatever, and someone has a question about why we should be members, they're always asking kind of like, what's in it for me? And of course we get accused of being selfish. Like hey, what do you mean what's in it for you? But it's not being selfish. It's about being prudent, especially in a time like now. If you look around, the price of eggs, for goodness sakes, is going up from, I think it's about $2 or so for a dozen in 2023 to now in many places over $5 a dozen. And so you think that we aren't watching every single penny? Like, we deserve to know what we get from our investment. So anyways, so going back to that post, in response to the really great question that was posed, there was actually a response from someone in current ADHA leadership. And before I tell you what she said, let me give you a quick second and see if you can guess some of the routine answers that she gave, because I know you've all heard this and seen this before. So in the total amount, she stated that our operating costs are about $6 million. And these are some of the things that it was spent on. She wrote about the cost of maintaining a website, the money they spent on the compact, which I don't think anyone really knows, because I don't think anyone's been paying attention how much we have spent on this compact. And if we had an accounting of all of those expenses, that would be great. But this is a multi-year commitment to a commission to create it. And then we have ongoing expenses of maintaining it. And when all is said and done, the participants, you and I, if we want to participate in this compact, we still have to pay additional yearly fees. And that's not included in the ADHA membership for the privilege of using it. Plus, there are state fees that are going to be mandated. But I'm all over the place. Then she goes on to talk about the, quote, small but mighty staff costs, which, don't worry, that episode is still coming soon on how much we are paying individuals, and it's going to blow your mind on how much we spent on like 4 of these people in the national administration. She also added costs for databases, and then she said there's a couple of key things: affinity programs, which we have to pay for, and the CE Smart platform, and also, quote, the first place you should look is the website. So, okay, all that is a preamble that's leading me to this episode. And I want to identify the benefits that are listed on the website, taking her instructions and giving them a hard look and seeing if these are things that we want. And then after I'm done with that, I'm going to list some benefits I think that we all really want to see and maybe give you a taste of what could possibly be. And ADHA executive team, first of all, thank you again for tuning in. I always appreciate an audience. I want you to know that you should feel free to use all of my ideas. Many of them, again, are ones I've told you for a long time now. These aren't new, I don't think, to you, but nevertheless, they're yours to implement if you want. Don't worry about giving me the credit for it. So from the website, let's talk about, there's different tiles that have all of the benefits listed. So the first one is a discounted event access. And next to that tile, it says, as an ADHA member, you save $200 on ADHA annual conference, the premier dental hygiene event of the year. Load up on live CE, amazing connections, and latest innovations and more. Save the date and join us. So let's analyze. First of all, I do take umbrage with the claim of the, quote, premier dental hygiene event of the year, because I think all of us know that RDH Under One Roof blows the ADHA annual conference out of the water. And RDH Under One Roof is actually the premier dental hygiene event of any year. I just don't get how you can claim to be the premier event, but then only have half of the attendance than your rival conference. It just doesn't make sense. But let's go back to the benefit claim. So the numbers on the website are still from 2024, but the cost of standard full registration for a member is $499, making it $699 for a non-member, right? Because you get $200 savings is their claim. And this is assuming, by the way, that we're not taking advantage of any of the earlier bird pricing or anything like that. This is just what it is. So $499 if you're a member, but did you know that RDH Under One Roof is only $450 for the same standard full registration? It's interesting, right? It's like it's cheaper. You don't have to be a member of anything. Now let's look at the workshops. The range of the cost of these workshops at the ADHA annual conference was anywhere from $112 per person for the CPR course to $300 for an ultrasonic implementation course. Now let's look over at RDH Under One Roof. $10 per person per workshop across the board. Okay. I mean, so again, it's not even a comparison at this point. Now let's look at the events, because I think that this is, we go there for the education, we go there for other reasons, but we also want to have networking events and other things. So, a president's dinner at ADHA annual conference. That costs an extra $110, but you do get drink tickets and there's food and stuff like that. An awards event with the installation of the board of directors sounds fascinating. Costs $55. Now let's look at what does RDH Under One Roof have. So each night they have a different networking event. There's music and there's dancing and all that kind of stuff. And let me look at the price for this one. Oh, it's free. It's included in the cost of the conference. Imagine that. So to quote Laura Winfield, we were talking about this earlier, and I was just like, why doesn't RDH Under One Roof have a cost for these events? And she said, quote, you shouldn't have to pay to party. And I just loved it so much. It is so true. When all is said and done, you're looking at registration fees nearly $1,000 to take advantage of the whole ADHA conference experience, while also being hit up to donate, by the way, to the ADHA's Institute for Oral Health Foundation, in which you might feel guilty if you don't do that. So, you're going to pony up a few more bucks on that one. Then let's look at RDH Under One Roof. For the registration and your conference experience might be up to maybe half that, maybe $500. Obviously, neither of these figures includes travel, hotels, and things like that. So let me ask again then, what is the benefit of paying $400 a year for my ADHA membership when I can go to this rival, which is bigger, better, more fun, more inclusive, and cheaper? I don't get it. So to me, that's false. It's not a real benefit. So the next benefit on the website is the Journal of Dental Hygiene. And it says members receive a digital subscription to the Journal of Dental Hygiene, the only peer-reviewed dental hygiene research publication in the US. Each issue helps you make evidence-based treatment decisions and stay current with developments in dental hygiene. So honestly, I have no problem with this benefit. I think it's actually a really great benefit. There are 6 editions each year, I believe. I think it's bi-monthly. And since there's no cost for printing and mailing, I don't know how much they actually pay their authors, but if it's in the same ballpark as other publications, it's probably not too much. So, of the $6 million budget, this is a rounding error probably in the cost. So I think obviously this one should remain a benefit. Now, can you find this type of stuff elsewhere? Probably yes. We all have access to Google Scholar. We have really amazing people like Spring Hatfield who post all sorts of research for free on the dental forums. We have bright, awesome individuals that can help us towards this, but I don't think that anything actually does take the place of the Journal of Dental Hygiene. So yes, 2 thumbs up for it being a benefit. Insurance coverage. It says, protect your future and the future of your family. ADHA offers preferred insurance plans, including professional liability, disability, life, dental, vision, and even pet insurance. Now, to be clear, even though the tile says insurance coverage, it's not included in the membership. So just be careful with that part of it. But what it does have is access to a portal in which you can apply for some of these insurances under a group rate. I have not used this myself, so there's not really much I can talk about it. However, I will say that in this day and age, if you're struggling to find good rates on insurance, on any of these types of insurances, you must not have the internet. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands of marketplaces out there for insurance. My vet office has pet insurance things. I can purchase through them directly. My bank weirdly has some offers for accidental death and dismemberment insurance. It's hard to call this a benefit. And if so, how many of the about 7,000 or so members that are actually members currently utilize it? And so, you have to do an analysis of this. It's like, well, if only 0.00003% of the members using it, should you even list it? Should you even have it? The next one is travel discounts. I'm not going to belabor this point either because it's obviously a carryover perk from when the only thing that anyone knew about Hawaii was what they saw as like the grand prize on Wheel of Fortune or The Price is Right had this as one of their prizes. Hotels.com, Expedia, Kayak. I mean, shoot, even Costco has some really amazing travel discounts and packages. They say you get up to 30% off of budget or Avis car rental. My Chase United card has these as well. There's also cheaper alternatives like Dollar or Thrifty that are not listed for car rentals. Those are easily found on any of those search engine sites. This isn't a benefit really that anyone wants or needs, and it's definitely not worth part of that $400. The next one reads financial advantages, and it says, from credit card perks and flexible financing options to planning services to help you achieve your goals, your ADHA membership gets you great rates and advice along the way. Well, this isn't super true because when you actually click that link, it drives you to a page that has only two options for an ADHA MasterCard. One that has benefits on it and one that's kind of like a basic credit card. I don't see anything listed as, at least at the time of this recording, that has like financial planning services or advice like they mentioned. And weirdly, it's a telling story that MasterCard was the brand that was selected, if you will. It's not the most used, and it's second after Visa. And I'm not really sure why that strikes me as odd, but I think just like in the middle of it, I'm just like, man, that's an interesting thing. We get a second-rate credit card offer. So anyway, this is a benefit that no one needs. I can get approved for a MasterCard in minutes anywhere else online. The next one is home and office. It says, from office supplies and prescriptions to computers and tech, your ADHA membership has your back and your wallet, which I thought was a weird inclusion because yes, the ADHA is trying to get into my wallet, but with exclusive discounts you won't find anywhere else. So I think actually this is mostly a great service. If you scroll through the options that they give, there's great discount for UPS and GE appliances. I'm not sure how often you'd be using these ones, but they are still pretty good discounts. I do know that they can be found elsewhere, but I think that was still a nice touch. There are services here that I've never heard of before, like ehuman.com. I didn't even click the link, so I still have no idea what that is. There's a discount program for prescriptions, but I think with Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs coming, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it probably makes all this unnecessary. And then fittingly, they have discounts for Dell computers. Now, there's this whole PC versus Apple computer thing, right? Now, Dell is within the PC world. And then in the PC world, it's the third most popular vendor behind Lenovo and HP. So again, don't worry about getting us top quality discounts or anything like that. Like we're good with third rate stuff. So, but I say as a category though, this is still probably is a benefit to a degree. I don't think it's worth the cost of admission, but I think it should still live on. Advocacy always is a listed benefit, and I just have all sorts of issues with this one. I think we all know that the real advocacy at the national level is a joke. There are more than 12,000 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. and 535 members of Congress. If you do the math on that, that means 23 lobbyists per member of Congress. I'm not sure how many lobbyists we can afford, but let's just say we have a handful at best. I don't think that is going to do any sort of damage against what the ADA can afford. I mean, and it's a drop in the ocean of the 12,000 lobbyists that are already there. I think the real power lies in the states, and I'll kind of get to a solution here in a minute of what we should do for that. But I think that's kind of a joke of a benefit at this point, and especially because, in my opinion, they're also not advocating on topics that I really care about and really want. The last benefit listed is one that actually kind of, it's a little bit personal to me, and I think my bias is going to just shine through. It's the Get CE Smart and Save tile. And it says membership means free and discounted education with a catalog of 100 plus evidence-based CE courses at your fingertips. Awesome monthly webinars and CE Smart tracker for storing all of your CE certificates, transcripts, and more. Now, if the name CE Smart and its description sounds eerily similar to CE Zoom, then you're not wrong. Actually, in a post in the ADHA Rant group from a couple of weeks ago, Sarah Thiel, who is one of the co-founders of CE Zoom, made a post about this exact thing. And I'll tell you, I'll read part of it here. I did lightly edit it. I removed some of the parts of the post that are not related to the point I'm trying to make. But if you want to see the full context of everything that she said, I think I'm still keeping it in context, but I think that the full statement's not really there. But you can go to the RDH Rant group and you can see her full post there if you want. She said, I'm a little bit nervous to engage in this post because repercussions toward my company could be great, but I really want to share my feelings and stances in hopes for a positive outcome from both sides. So please read this knowing I mean no negativity to either side. I just want unity like all of us do. Thank you. She continued and said, I have firsthand experience with the National ADHA. As a hygienist who actively supported the association and held leadership roles early in my career, I was deeply disappointed when I founded a company that provided a valuable solution for CE tracking and event management, one that would have directly benefited ADHA members, only to have the National Association refuse to work with me, even when I was offering it to them for pennies. What was even more disheartening was that they later took the very idea I presented and attempted to build it themselves from their very own. I'll admit that for years, I felt resentment over how this played out, not because they chose not to collaborate with me, that's their prerogative, but because instead of simply declining, they later pursued the same concept themselves, and while they may call themselves a version of a tracker, it doesn't compare with what we've built. And for me, I mean, man, that's some slimy crap. I am so upset about that. They always talk about unity and collaboration, and then they go and steal from one of their very own members and a former leader. And then even when they did that, what they gave us as a quote unquote benefit was a very watered down version. Again, a second rate quote benefit. And I think I'll need to have Sarah on at some point to tell you all about how much better her platform is and how the CE that she provides is unique to the state or state licenses that you actually have and how it's a real tracker as opposed to some sort of like a file manager of sorts. And that was it. And that was all from the website. Now, I am, like I said, I'm a solutions oriented kind of guy. I don't see the benefits that they claim to have on there. Definitely not worth the money. Let me maybe read 5 or so benefits that I've come up with that I think that we really want to see. So number one, I mentioned this before, but the compact fees. I still think that this version of the compact is really dumb. We shouldn't be advocating for it at all. It's just ridiculous. In fact, I saw earlier a post that in one of the states, they're fighting against a bill that was proposed that would remove the requirement for a dental assistant to be tested on competency and then for them to register with the state. And the idea is they're going to have this flood of unqualified dental assistants working in our offices. Great for the shortage problem, but they're lowering the barrier for entry and lowering the quality and standards of the dental assisting profession. Now, the compact actually has language it's sneakily similar in that there's language in which could be leveraged to remove several requirements for dental hygiene testing on competency prior to licensure. And then that watered down version of a license will be just as valid as others. But again, I'm going off topic here. I digress a lot. But anyway, so going back to the compact, if we have already been paying for this compact, which again, unbeknownst to all of us that we've been paying for it with our dues this whole entire time, should it move forward, we should not have to pay any fees to use it if we are members. We need unfettered access as members. Number two, we need to give more money to the states. Not much elaboration here. We are a very top-heavy organization. And at the top, you really aren't doing anything that is impacting us at the state level. If our national presidents and president-elects receive compensation, and by that I mean there's a line item, a stipend on the ADHA 990s in the amount of about $60,000 each year. Part of that's for our president, part of that's for our past president. If they get compensated, then why don't our state presidents get compensated at all? When I look at the 990s for the Washington State Dental Hygiene Association, their president-elect, $0, $0, $0, $0. that is messed up when they're doing all of the heavy lifting. We have it exactly backwards from how it should be. Number 3, I think that we want you all to lobby against insurances. And I know that's a losing battle, but I think if you set aside all of your other agendas that don't make sense, you band together with the ADA and their lobbyists, and then you go after the insurance companies rather than getting in bed with them, our reimbursement rates have been stagnant for decades. And when the offices don't make money on a prophy because the insurances are crap, then guess who doesn't have a job? Us. So this has to be a priority. These are the things that we need to fix. If you are going to claim to be advocating for us, help us keep our jobs. Number 4, create a legal solutions pathway. Now, many hygienists have questions or concerns about employment situations. I know that you have done courses on this before at your annual conference. I've seen them. But you as an entity are not equipped to handle everyone's legal problems. So my solution would be, let's give some extra money to each state so they can create a directory of legal teams, legal firms by state and maybe even by county that should a hygienist have a concern or a question, they have a resource of someone who would be contacted. Again, we're not handling legal cases. We're just creating a resource that will actually help the everyday hygienist. Number 5, and this is the last one, create better partnerships with other organizations that are working towards the goals that you claim that you're working towards. I was contacted by so many people to do an episode on where do you turn in their state specifically as an alternate to the ADHA. I think it's your responsibility to represent the whole profession and not just its members. And you need to provide these partnerships and these resources to everybody. It needs to be posted for everyone can see it. I received a letter actually just yesterday, actually an email. I know I said letter, but it was from Catherine Cabenzone, who is one of the most recognized leaders in Florida. She's worked with the ADHA for years, which I'll get into in a minute. And then also she has worked with the state dental board. She's worked with so many different groups and coalitions and things like that. She is absolutely amazing. And she wrote this to me. I did lightly edit it again to kind of just stay on message. But she said, "Hi, Andrew. My name is Kathy. I've been a member of ADHA for 24 years and I live in Florida. I have been the chair of governmental affairs for the Florida Dental Hygienists Association for 15 years, working purely as a volunteer. I heard your podcast, Hullabaloo, and it was amazing. A few months ago, I decided to resign as governmental chair of the FDHA and drop my ADHA membership to start the Florida Dental Hygiene Alliance, Inc., FLDHA, an organization within Florida that will serve as a platform for advancing our profession with no ties to the ADHA. I have been unhappy with ADHA for many years due to the many issues you outline in your podcast, and so are many FDHA members. Due to the charter agreement that was forced on the states, FDHA will not leave ADHA. Regrettably, FDHA is losing more and more members and following a path that I can no longer support. So it was time for me to do the only thing I felt would be right and start another state organization. When you said what would be wrong with having other organization umbrellas working towards common goals with our profession, it was like you were speaking to me. Thank you for sharing this information and speaking up regarding a long-time issue with the ADHA. She goes on to say, presently, FLDHA, which again is the Florida Dental Hygiene Alliance, has received grants and we are seeking 501c3 status. It's pretty impressive as we are only 1 month old, but 3 months in the making. We are engaging in free CEs for all hygienists and continue advocacy efforts as a partner with Floridians for Dental Access, moving forward with dental therapy legislation during the 2025 legislative session. FLDHA is another resource for all dental hygienists who want change, transparency, and the ability to be a part of the future changes in our profession without having a small group of organizational leaders dictate what they should want and feel. Respectfully, Kathy." Wow, right? I mean, this is what a leader is exactly right here. Taking matters into her own hands, creating the pathways that aren't currently available. So many of you are out there are capable of doing exactly this. And you know what? If you're not, all you have to do is just start asking your fellow hygienist, what have you guys heard out there? And I promise you that you're going to stumble across some amazing groups like the Florida Dental Hygiene Alliance and the Dental Hygiene Advocates of Washington. They exist. We cannot give up, but we cannot depend on our national association to lead us there when they don't even know what benefits we want. So ADHA national leadership, you got to start listening to the people. If you want the money, which is painfully evident, You got to increase membership. If you want to be able to actually tell the truth, to say that you represent the profession, then you need more members, or you will continue to be the joke that you are. And in order to increase membership, you need to give the people value. Get over your pride, ask for forgiveness, and let's move on and simply get better. I want to thank you all for listening. If you have a resource that you want me to mention on a future episode, one that might help other people, especially if it's state specific or region specific, just let me know. Send me an email, andrew@ataleof2hygienist. I will be sure to give it a shout out. Hopefully we can all work towards protecting our profession and having meaningful change. Thanks again for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody.
A tale of two hygienists.